The Maelstrom Hunter by Crimson QB Sage, Chapter 8, Past and Pranks. Uh, Team Archfiend Dormitory. How exactly did you guys get to Remnant? Naruto asked. Well, Roshi started. Flashback start. Near the border of Earth Country and Waterfall Country, Roshi was running away from Iwa and the source of his sorrows. The 12-year-old boy ran as far as his legs could carry him. I was running away, Roshi said. From what? Naruto asked. From the lies I was fed by Iwa, Roshi replied. Stopping at a nearby rock, Roshi hunched over, panting as tears streamed down his eyes. He had been running from Irigakuri for 6 hours straight. He couldn't believe it. No, he could. But it didn't mean that the truth didn't hurt. Hours ago, he had overheard something that destroyed his trust with the Tsuchikage and his best friend. I was told by the Tsuchikage that he didn't know my family, Roshi stated. But he was lying, Naruto said. He was in a similar situation back in Konoha. Yeah, thinking back on the events that unfolded only hours ago, Roshi had found out about his family. They were all dead, but what really hurt was that the man he had trusted had lied to him from the start. I learned that my grandfather was the Yonbei's Jinchuriki. I was named after him by my parents moments before he was killed. The Iwa Council, from what I found out, had felt as if my grandpa was becoming too old to be a useful weapon to Iwa, and decided to extract Bichi from him and seal it into a new container, Roshi said, but was unable to finish. And you were the container? Naruto concluded, Roshi nodding his head. Once word got out that I would be the next Jinchuriki, my parents were hunted down so the demon would be killed while it was weakened. Minutes after my birth, my parents hid me with the Tsuchikage and left with a blanket concealing a child-sized rock. They were found inched and surrounded by the same mob that was after my head. Nearly everything that connected me to them was destroyed, so that was all I was able to find out. The scene changes to show that Roshi was walking towards the tropical forest, nearly exiting the mountain terrains that Rock Country was famed for. Something was compelling him to head towards the coast, but he couldn't figure out what. Suddenly, a kunai was thrown near him. A tag was attached and fizzing. He jumped back just in time to escape the blast radius. Looking around for the source of the kunai, he was greeted with the sight of 3 shinobi, each wearing an Irigakuri headband. The man on the left was wearing a red long-sleeve shirt, his left sleeve missing a lapel on the side without a sleeve, dark gray shinobi pants, and the standard Chunin brown flak jacket. On the right was a woman wearing a dark red sleeveless shirt, gray shinobi pants, the Chunin brown flak jacket, and a dark red Irigakuri headband around her neck. And in the center was a man wearing dark sunglasses, dark red long sleeve shirt, a brown Chunin flag jacket, dark gray shinobi pants, and his black Irigakuri headband was tied around his left arm near his shoulder. I was near the border between Earth Country and Waterfall Country when the shinobi sent after me caught up. They would have taken me back too if it wasn't for some outside assistance. As the story continued, the scene changed to show Roshi barely standing in a devastated scenery with the 3 Irigakuri shinobi standing above him. The shinobi looking worse for wear, but before then, Roshi's condition. As the shinobi in the middle raised his arm to knock out Roshi, a red blur knocked him away. Looking up, Roshi saw a large menacing figure standing over him. His savior was wearing red samurai armor along with a straw hat of the same pattern and had a horsetail. Han arrived just in time to save me from being captured by the village. Later on that day, we talked and agreed that Iwa wouldn't stop hunting us, so we had to go beyond their reach, beyond the Elemental Nations. Another scene changes which showed the two Jinchuriki walking through a jungle-like terrain, only to come across a gruesome sight. A familiar mint green-haired girl was found beaten near the side of their path. Rushing to her side, the two Jinchuriki examined her wounds before helping her up. While we were walking through Waterfall Country, we must have ended up near Takigakuri, because all along the way we found the last member of our little group, Fu. When we found her, she had been beaten by a mob of civilians, Roshi stated. I was wary of them at first because of past experiences, but eventually came to trust them. When they told me of what they planned to do, I immediately asked to join them, Fu finished. The now trio of Jinchuriki were now found falling asleep with a low campfire slowly burning out. Fu and Roshi were going to sleep, while Han stayed awake awake and kept guard. As Roshi closed his eyes, he reopened them again, but he was no longer in the jungle terrain. No, he was standing on dark blue water, a deep black fog surrounding him. He jumped up and took a defensive position, preparing to fight whatever dragged him here, only to loosen up at the sound of a voice. "Come closer," an ominous deep voice softly bellowed. Following the sound of the voice, Roshi came across a large, dark gray stone platform. Standing on the platform was a giant red-furred, green-skinned monkey. Its body built resembled that of a gorilla and had eyes with yellow irises and white pupils. Spike-like protrusions along the length of four tails that came from its body, two long horns curved upward on its forehead, resembling a crown, and had two elongated fangs coming from its mouth. Both its fangs and horns were dark-tipped. One of the nights while we were traveling, I had encountered my mindscape and met the Biju sealed inside me, Roshi told Naruto. "The Yonbai?" Naruto asked, Roshi nodding his head. "It prefers to go by the name Son Goku," Roshi added. "So this is my latest jailer, huh? My last Jinchuriki was more impressive," Son Goku said. "Where am I? How did I get here? Who are you?" Roshi asked. "Huh, I don't need to tell you anything," Son Goku sneered. After a few minutes, Roshi snapped his fingers in realization. "I know, you're the Yonbai," Roshi exclaimed. "That name, Son Goku, remember it?" Son Goku commanded more than said. "Okay then, can I just call you Son?" Roshi said. "No," Son Goku said. "So Son, where am I?" Roshi said. "It's Son Goku and we're in your mindscape," Son Goku said, irritated by Roshi's nickname for him. "My mindscape?" Roshi said in curiosity. He looked around left and right before staring back at Son Goku. "I thought it would look a bit different." Flashback end. After that first initial meeting, we met a few times more, and eventually we came to an agreement. I scratch his back, he scratches mine, sort of deal, with the added benefit of becoming part monkey, Roshi said, a grin plastered on his face at that last statement. "He's not the only one who made a deal with a Biju," Han added. "I made a deal with Kokuo that benefited us both. Channeling some of Kokuo's chakra, his body transformed, his hands and feet turned into white hooves, his single horse fawn's tail soon became 5, his torso became that of a horse, and his head resembled that of a white dolphin with 4 horns with light brown lip tips. All in all, he looked like a miniature version of Kokuo, transforming back from his Biju form." Han stressed a bit. "Damn, always stress on the joints," Han said as he finished stretching. "My deal with Lucky 7 gave me these," Fu said. 6 insect wings and a tail sprouted from her body, "in exchange for sharing my senses and some gambling every now and then." "What about you?" Roshi asked Naruto. "How do you know I even am a Jinchuriki?" Naruto countered. "You didn't hide your presence very well when you came here," Roshi answered, Naruto throwing his hands up in defense. "Fine, you win. I basically made the same deal with the QB like you did with Son Goku," Naruto said, pointing at Roshi. "Only difference is that I became a fox faunus." "Cool," Roshi said. The crew went back to prepping to sleep. "So Roshi," Naruto said Monkey Faunus looking up, "I heard that you're a prankster." "You got that right," Roshi replied, puffing out his chest in pride. "I was proclaimed the #1 prankster back in Iwa, the Red Monkey," he finished, causing Naruto to grin like a madman. "Oh, really? Well, you're looking at Konoha's #1 prankster, the Orange Fox," Naruto proclaimed, Roshi beginning to have a grin that matched Naruto's. "And this is very, very interesting," Roshi said. Neither of them spoke for half a minute, each devising a prank to pull on the other, causing Fu and Han to look at the two pranksters in fear. Soon enough, all 4 Jinchuriki went to sleep, the 2 pranksters of the group deciding to prank the other the next day. Naruto's mindscape. Kurama sighed at his host's antics. Before he could continue his train of thoughts, he felt his conscience being pulled into a different plane, a feeling he had not felt in a long time. The last time this happened was when Kurama suddenly found himself in a small flat clearing with a light brown floor. Looking around, the ancient mass of chakra saw 3 familiar beings, and 4 was fast asleep. And 4 fast asleep humans. The first was a red 4-tailed monkey. The second was a white 5-tailed horse with a dolphin-like face, and the third was a blue armored kabutomushi with 7 tails, 6 of which resembled green insect wings. Naruto, Roshi, Han, and Fu were fast asleep on the floor, leaving the 4 Biju awake. "It's good to finally see you again after all these years, Kurama-ni," the Kabutomashi said. "It certainly has been a long time since we last met, Chomei, Kokuo, Sangoku," Kurama said. "So why are we here?" "We need to discuss the Raibi," Son Goku said, becoming serious. "Surely you must have felt that disturbance," Nissan, Kokuo said quietly. Indeed, I did, but the Rabi's chakra felt different than before, more tainted. Kurama stated, his eyes narrowing slightly. But that's not what worries me. The Biju finished, causing the three others to tense up. By now, I'm sure you all have sensed small fragments of it coming from these creatures the human call Grim, Kurama said. I did as well, Son Goku added. Same here, Kokugo quietly said. As much as I'd like to not be true, we all have felt a small fragment of it inside these Grim. But how? Chomei asked. I don't know, Chomei, but if its presence is found even here, then we need to be on guard, Kurama said. But what about the others? Kokugo quietly asked, worried about the other Biju still in the elemental nations. Shukaku, Matatabi, Isobu, Saiken, and Yuki can handle what comes at them, Kurama said. But what if they can't? Chomei countered. Then we will have to prepare for the worst, Kurama said. Team Archfiend Dormitory. The sun had just rose above the horizon, casting a scene of warm shades on the color spectrum. The grass still had traces of morning dew as a gentle breeze made the grass sway slightly. Birds chirped every now and then as the wildlife in the area began to awake from their slumber. Yes, if one were to look at the scenery in front of them, they would find that all seemed quiet and peace. Boom! Was the sound that came from Team Archfiend's dormitory, shortly followed by the sound of a second explosion coming from the same source. 5 minutes earlier, the sun had just begun to rise. All was quiet as Team Archfiend slumbered. That is, except for one. Roshi silently giggled at the prank he was about to pull on Naruto. As Naruto lied sleeping in his bed, Roshi had set up a series of non-lethal ninja wires that was rigged to release his trademark red paint that would be activated when Naruto rose from his bed. Still chuckling to himself, he quietly made his way back to his bed. Once he was at his bed, he grabbed a small pebble he kept hidden in his pillow and threw it at Naruto, effectively waking the blonde fox up. What the heck? Naruto said as he rose from his bed. Boom! The prank was activated as the blonde was splattered with the red monkey trademark red prank paint. Haha, I got you good, Roshi laughed, beginning to sit down on his own bed. And with that, it was infamous red monkey. Before he could finish his self-gloating, a second explosion went off and Roshi suddenly found himself covered in Orange Fox trademark orange prank paint, effectively shocking the red-haired monkey. This caused Naruto to grin, only to disappear in a poof, further shocking the red monkey. The door to the team's room opened to reveal Naruto with his trademark fox-like grin plastered on his face. But Roshi tried to form words to comprehend what just happened. You really thought you could get one over me? Please, you can't defeat the master, Naruto said with his grin becoming even larger. And with that, Konoha's infamous Orange Fox continues to hold the title of #1 prankster in the world. With Team Asuma, Guy, and Kurenai, Pier 27, Water Country. The nine members of Konoha 11 and the two Rude members had finally arrived at their destination. The morning mist was still present, giving the docks an eerie feeling. So tell me again why we're at this dock so early in the morning, Ino complained, being the most unadapted to waking up at this time of day. We need to leave behind as little a trail as possible. The more we stay in one area, the more likely our trail can be traced, Yamato explained. Also, this is where we're supposed to meet our informant. Who exactly is this guy that we're supposed to meet? Kiba asked. Well, Yamato began, only to be interrupted. Caw! Caw! Yamato had been interrupted by a crow that was perched on one of the wooden posts. The crow itself looked to be old and had a small note attached to its foot, but other than that, nothing was out of the ordinary about this crow. Speak of the devil. This here is the informant, Yamato stated, the other minus side looking at him like he grew a second head. A crow? Kiba questioned. Well, of course, we can't actually meet our informant unless we blow his cover, Yamato exclaimed, getting a chorus of ahs from the confused nine. Grabbing the piece of paper attached to the crow's foot, he read the information that had been inscribed by their informant. All right, I found it near our boat to use. We're going to need one. With Team Archfiend and Team Ruby, Han and Fu, along with the 4 members of Team Ruby, stared in disbelief at the odd sight. Throughout the whole day, even with their classes, Naruto and Roshi had an all-out prank war, nearly everyone being caught in the crossfire, which consisted of various exploding paints, snares, exploding waters, exploding drinks, exploding paper stacks. Pretty much everything that had somehow been turned into an exploding object by these two said individuals were currently in a strange predicament. Roshi was currently stuck to flypaper on the ceiling covered in orange paint, small pieces of paper, feathers, honey, scorch marks, baby powder, and itching powder. Naruto was hanging upside down from a snare trap covered in spots of red paint, scratch scratches, scorch marks, itching powder, and feathers. Hi Ruby, hi Yang, Naruto waved despite being upside down, causing the two to have a swift drop appear while their other two teammates were still in disbelief. Do I even want to know how you two got into this situation? Fu asked, sighing at her teammates' antics. Nope, was the unison reply that she got from the two pranksters. Omaka, how it could have gone. Naruto and Roshi started to glare at each other after the revelation of their prankster identities. Suddenly, the duo started to channel energy in a Super Saiyan-like pose, Naruto's energy manifesting in a bright orange aura, and Roshi's manifesting into a bright red aura. Both started shouting, waking up their recently asleep teammates. Fu and Han shot up out of their bed, just in time to see the two pranksters begin to levitate whilst channeling energy and shouting until Naruto charged forward at Roshi. There can only be one, both pranksters yelled out. When the two collided, a small explosion of red and orange paint coated the room, along with the four people in it. It may have seemed like that much of an explosion at the epicenter, but if one were to look from outside the room, it looked as if someone packed 12 dozen C4s into one explosion. Naruto, Fu, Han, and Roshi were all covered in the mixture of red and orange paint and silent. The four stayed silent for a few minutes before Fu spoke up. Oh, screw it. It's 11:30 right now. I'm going back to sleep, she said, smothering her face into her pillow in an attempt to go back to sleep. End of chapter 8.